Kia ora and welcome to the Itinerary. In today's episode, we will focus on conservation and tourism. Joining me on our first panel today are Rachel Hayden, General Manager of National Aquarium of New Zealand, and Nathan Hawke, Marketing Manager at Orana Wildlife Park. Kia ora, thank you both for joining me. Let's kick things off with sharing with us the various ways your organisations are committed to conservation.
The National Aquarium of New Zealand, we undertake breeding programs for captive species like brown kiwi. We also undertake a lot of rehabilitation and release work where possible with the gorgeous korora or little penguin, in addition to allowing our staff time out of their calendars to participate in survey work and other local conservation efforts as well.
So conservation is a core part of our mission, and it's a key reason Orana Wildlife Park exists. And conservation to us means many things, and we're involved in a range of different initiatives. So we're involved in 39 zoo-based breeding programs in partnership with the World Association of Zoos and Aquariums, our Regional Zoo Association, and the Department of Conservation. So, for example, we're privileged to be involved in dock recovery programs for species such as kakariki karaka. Conservation advocacy is a really key focus of us, though, and we're wanting to ensure that our visitors feel a real connection with wildlife. So we're arming them with take-home conservation messages, and that's in a formal setting through our zoo school, where we deliver 42,000 hours of curriculum-linked programs each year, or it's to all visitors who come through the zoo through presentations and QR codes and the like. But the habitat of our zoo is also part of our conservation work. So, for example, we have endangered mudfish, Canterbury mudfish, released onto our grounds last year. And that's a key part of what we stand for, as well as being involved in key messaging campaigns such as They're Calling on You, which is a program focusing on recycling mobile phones to help gorilla conservation. So it's a multifaceted approach. We're trying to enthuse everyone to take part and to help us achieve our goals too.
And tell us, how does tourism help conservation efforts?
For us as a Napier City Council governed facility, there is obviously a portion that's ratepayer funded, but also we charge fees and charges for entry, for events, for encounters and experiences. So every tourist dollar that we get in helps us undertake every single conservation campaign, piece of conservation work that we do, because obviously it's not just about knowledge and skill development and a bit of fun and creativity while you're there. It is also about those outcomes linked to behaviour change for more positive conservation outputs for our visitors coming in.
Orana's operated as a charitable trust, and so around 95% of our income is generated through visitation. So, of course, people coming through the door is key. Zoos are expensive places to run. For example, our 3 gorilla boys eat $800 worth of vegetables every week. Involvement in our key breed for release programs takes a lot of effort and highly skilled staff. So having visitors through the door is key. But for us, it's about the visit experience too, and having clear points of difference to bring people through. So we've got products that are specifically pitched at all markets, but I guess particularly the tourism market. So, for example, our lion encounter, where people can travel through the lion reserve on board our amazing vehicle for close views of these kings of the beasts. And in terms of our role with tourism as well, we see ourselves as part of the drive to highlight Canterbury, bring more people to this region, encourage them to spend more and stay longer.
You must be missing those international tourists, right?
Absolutely. We miss them a lot, and it'll be interesting to see what the upcoming summer is like. But our domestic visitation has been absolutely incredible, which we're really grateful for. The July holiday period, we were up about 78% on visitation, which was not expected and incredible. And our October holidays, just having gone past, we were still up about 34%. So, closure for 7 weeks was really difficult. Our animal teams worked so hard across that period to make sure that, the animals still had their care and husbandry as they always would. And some species, such as our little penguins, definitely missed visitors. We ended up having radio stations, a local radio station playing in the background, and keepers sort of making sure that they were regularly in that area to give them company. But, you know, we are so grateful for what domestic visitation has brought to the bay. It's been really, really encouraging to see. But Napier being a big cruise ship destination, it will be interesting to see what the impact is over the summer holiday period.
Similarly, I mean, right from the start, obviously, closure isn't great for a facility that relies on generating income through visitation. So we can't hibernate costs. As I mentioned, things like $800 worth of vegetables each week to feed our gorillas. Those are costs that can't be hibernated. Same with staff costs, because we've got specialist skill sets of our team. So COVID's obviously had a monumental impact, but we've also been very fortunate with support from the community. So we reached out through a Give a Little campaign a few weeks into lockdown, and we're absolutely humbled by the response from the New Zealand community, and that's continued in terms of visiting once we've opened. Of course, it's a long haul, it's a long way through, and so we obviously need our domestic and local visitors to keep coming through our doors and keep supporting us, and we need to keep ensuring that our product, if you like, remains quality for them as well.
Have any of you noticed any particular trends when it comes to conservation tourism in your organisation? Just to use a generic example, I imagine that tourists would pay pretty big bucks to come and visit and see a kiwi as opposed to a pukeko. What are your thoughts around that?
Yeah, there's at the National Aquarium of New Zealand, you may not expect to find brown kiwi, tuatara, and other terrestrial species, but we have them. And the brown kiwi and tuatara are absolutely sort of, unique New Zealand taonga species that visitors absolutely want to see. For us, it's the face-to-face encounters, particularly little penguins, with our success of our Penguin of the Month and then Penguin of the Year campaign. They have a huge international following. So people love to get up close and participate in the feeding and Q&A close up with a keeper as well. What we've found really interesting is part of that response to not being able to have the physical face-to-face encounter, with the various level restrictions and also the decrease in international or no international visitors. We released a virtual penguin encounter, and we were amazed. Las Vegas, LA, random places started taking us up on our virtual penguin encounters. So that sort of face-to-face, albeit virtual, is still incredibly popular. And the behind-the-scenes tours, where visitors get a little sneak peek at whether it be quarantine facilities or the top of our 1.5 million litre oceanarium, there's definitely that behind the velvet rope experience that still, is popular with visitors and allows us to, yes, provide a unique experience, but also talk about our core conservation messaging and kaupapa while they're there as well.
I would like you to tell me, how have you managed to strike a balance between letting nature be nature and pandering, if you must, to the tourists? Because, people must get upset about the things that you can't control. So tell me how it is that you both strike that balance.
Yeah, sure. For us, it's all about connecting with wildlife and being able to deliver our key conservation messages to our visitors. So Orana is set on 80 hectares of public display land. So we know that people want to see animals in bigger exhibits, but don't necessarily want to peer at specks in the distance. And so that's been a challenge that we've worked on over the years. And our response has been to deliver 12 scheduled presentations every day, which is an opportunity for visitors to come close with their animals. So, for example, they can hand feed our majestic giraffe, or that's where our lion encounter fills a great niche. People can travel through the lion reserve on board the experience, or they can go through the Kia aviary for a cool presentation. But at each of those opportunities, it's a chance for us to engage with our visitors and arm them with take-home messages too.
Now, while tourism and conservation can align so well, I think it's fair to say it's not a product that can be so easily turned into a business. You just can't decide one day to build a kiwi park and have that process go extremely smoothly. So could you both talk us through some of the limitations and challenges involved in running a business like yours, and the association and the links and supports that you have with government, council and your business partners?
Yeah, it is. I don't think people truly appreciate sometimes the amount of work and effort that goes into zoos and aquariums. I'll let Nathan speak more to the exotic species, but the first question you have to ask yourself, are you going to have natives or exotics? For us, our native species, such as our tuatara, our kiwi, little penguins, even the number of fish that we have on site. We'll have Department of Conservation permits that we need to apply for, and they'll have really strict criteria that we have to meet as part of that. We'll have, Ministry of Primary Industries, for example, with our permit about how many of each fish species that we can have on site, all the way down to chitons and kinner and things like that. We are also members of the Zoo and Aquarium Association Australasia, and so they offer an accreditation, which means that passing our accreditation, we have positive welfare standards for our animals. And that's really important because, thinking about even how animals are on show, you can't have an entire exhibit on show. You must provide little pockets of refuge for animals to escape to. So there's a huge amount that goes into design, and that's just for the animal. Then when you think about the visitor experience, even for children, people with access requirements, such as in wheelchairs, there is a huge science behind exhibit design and permitting. It's not an easy undertaking for sure.
And we're very privileged to hold the animals that we do, and obviously maintaining key welfare for the species that we hold is absolute key to what we're about. So similarly, it's a multidisciplined approach, and there's many organisations that we work with. First and foremost, as I mentioned earlier, we're a member of World Association of Zoos and Aquariums. Our regional zoo associations are, and then partner with places such as DOC. And so as part of ZAR, as Rachel mentioned, there's accreditation through there, but also that involves, that means that we can participate in managed, scientifically backed up populations. So yes, if we're looking at what species we hold and how we have them here, there's all sorts of things from designing the exhibits from the start, where you'd go through your normal building permitting processes, right through to MPI compliance, of course. So we operate under the HASNO Act, the Hazardous Species and New Organisms Act. And then in terms of transferring animals, there's permits, there's receiver permits, there's sending permits, there's all sorts of compliance that goes on, but health and safety is also part of the mix. So it's a very diverse mix. We don't just go and get a new tiger from somewhere. There's a special process that we go through there. There's a census and a species coordinator for each animal to ensure that there's good genetics around. There's breeding recommendations for each species that we hold as well to ensure that every species is well represented. So the balance we have in our setting is it's conservation versus commercialization in some ways, and so it's getting that balance right as well.
Now, finally, I would like to ask you, how does one find a career in Orana Wildlife Park and National Aquarium of New Zealand, or any other conservation tourism operator?
I mean, there's technical aspects to various roles. So, for example, if we're looking for native species team members, then there'll be delicate egg handling skills and those sort of things that are needed. So, of course, there's the technical skills that associate with the role. But essentially, we're looking for the most passionate people as well. We work in a very diverse, people-centric environment. Although our product is animals, if you like, our visitors are key. And so the visit experience remains essential to what we do. So our team need to be absolutely passionate people. But it depends on the area that they're working in. We manage so many different disciplines, from marketing to finance to development to holding New Zealand's only gorillas. So there's an amazing range of courses. If it's a zookeeper focused course, there's a Unitech course out of Auckland called Certificate in Animal Care. So that's an apprenticeship on how to be a zookeeper. But we also offer a lot of on-site training too, from our volunteer program right up to all of our team.
Yeah, and I would echo what Nathan said, very people-centric. I think for the visitor experience, customer service is key. It's having the right attitude. And I think the wonderful thing that binds a lot of us is that passion for wildlife conservation, and to be fair, a really fun experience for our visitors coming through. And we obviously have divers on site at the aquarium, so we've got technical expertise needed as well, such as dive qualifications, usually rescue diver, dive master, or instructor, which is quite strict with WorkSafe standards. It can be the Unitech course, as Nathan mentioned, marine science degrees, things like that. But sometimes the way in can be through volunteer programs. So anyone who's really keen to get involved and work at a place like a zoo or aquarium, which is an incredible place to work, sometimes it is just a matter of getting in contact with them and learning from the inside out and finding those volunteering opportunities that can help you learn if it is actually a place that you would like to be a part of as well.
Next on the panel, we will delve into the massive conservation work conducted by Auckland Council. But first, let's take a look at the amazing collaboration between tourism and conservation through Auckland Whale and Dolphin Safari.
So here at Auckland Whale and Dolphin Safari, we get to take a boat full of people every day out into the Haraki Gulf Marine Park, looking for the whales, the dolphins, the birds, all of the sea life out there. And it's not just about looking at the animals, viewing the animals out there. The research is a huge part of what we do. And we actively involve our passengers in that research, whether it be dropping a Secchi disc over the front to measure plant plankton density, whether it's collecting zooplankton samples, and even checking our waters for microplastics. That's the sort of thing we actively involve our passengers in as well, and everyone's learning from that experience.
For me, it's amazing that I get to work out in the Haraki Gulf every single day, whilst also helping to contribute towards the research, which in turn is going to help save the animals out there. On a global scale, the Haraki Gulf is a really special area. It's so close to Auckland City, which means we have an added responsibility of looking after all the wildlife out there. The Haraki Gulf is so special because we have such a diverse array of marine species out there. We have over 22 species of marine mammal that visit the Haraki Gulf, including 2 resident species. We also have lots of other animals, sharks, jellyfish, manta rays, even whale sharks and other tropical species that come into the Gulf. So we open up the boat as a platform of opportunity, which basically means that any researchers can come on board to collect their data if they have no other means to do it. The data is mainly used by the Department of Conservation as well as some of the local universities, mainly Auckland University, Massey University and AUT. The passengers contribute by coming out with us on our daily safaris. The money that they pay to come out with us helps in turn to fund the research, so essentially without those passengers coming out, the research does not happen. What's fantastic to see is that more and more people are making ethical and conscious choices about what they're doing on holiday. And so that means for us as a growing company, we're able to put more and more resources into the research on board.
So our nature and our beautiful natural environment is actually who we are. It's what we do and it's what we live and breathe every day. And companies like Auckland Whale and Dolphin are absolutely setting the standard in sustainable tourism, which is just so important.
So what I love about this company is that from the very beginning, when it started back in 2000, it was designed in a way where the conservation and commercial elements of what we do work in harmony. And what we're trying to achieve is to have that ethos run right through our company, whether it be from partnering with our research partners like the Department of Conservation or the universities, through our procurement policies on board, how our staff get to work in the mornings, even the type of blue paper that we use on board. It all really comes down to our tagline, discover today, protect for tomorrow. And it just makes sense. If we can protect the whales and dolphins in the Haraki Gulf, we also protect our business, and that can only be a good thing.
For many New Zealanders, Auckland is just our country's biggest city. They think of traffic, sky-rise buildings and a big population. What many people fail to note, however, is the vast spread of natural resources located in this region. 3 harbours, volcanoes, beautiful islands full of our native birds, ancient forests, regional parks and some absolutely gorgeous beaches make up Tāmaki Makaurau, Auckland. So here to tell me how all of this is managed is Phil Brown, the Head of Natural Environment at Auckland Council. Phil, kia ora. I think a lot of people would be surprised to learn that Auckland Council controls the vast majority of conservation work in the region and not DOC. Would you be able to give us a quick summary of the kind of work Council manages, please?
Yeah, kia ora. It's, thanks for having me along. We work in partnership with DOC on lots of things, but you're right, we do manage a lot. We've got more than 4,000 parks across Auckland, including more than 20 amazing regional parks. You touched on the fact that we manage some beautiful islands full of our native birds. We manage the largest forests in Auckland, the Waitakere and Hunua ranges. And we have important roles around managing our waterways, keeping our beaches clean, protecting our forests from coati dieback, and supporting the community to control our pests to make sure that our native biodiversity can thrive.
How is Auckland Council managing tourists in conservation areas? Are people a problem?
Well, we absolutely welcome tourists to our wonderful places in Auckland, and it's just important that they look after the place while they're there too. So perhaps they need to make sure that they're sticking to the tracks, that they're following any directions that they're given, leaving their pets at home, those kinds of things. It's great to have people coming and enjoying our wonderful places.
Now, coati dieback is probably one of the best examples we have of how you're managing the people problem. Closing down a huge portion of Auckland's best walks was an incredibly bold move. What can you tell us about both the reaction you received to this and how do we want to get people back into our forests? Talk to us about that, please.
Yeah, coati dieback's a really challenging problem for us and for everyone to manage. And of course, having to close many of the walks through our coati forest was a big decision, as you say, and reactions varied. Some people really applauded the fact that we're taking strong action. And of course, there's many people that have reservations about not being able to get into those places right now. But as we've been upgrading tracks and we've been able to get people back in, we're really working quickly through our program of reopening tracks now. And so over the next couple of years, we should see many of those tracks reopened. Some will have to remain closed to protect the particularly important sites or perhaps the badly diseased sites. But by and large, people can still get back into the forest, which is fantastic.
I want to ask you about Auckland Council managing regional parks and campsites. Are there many challenges with having popular campgrounds near protected areas? I'm curious to know if people are aware of that in their respective surroundings.
I think people usually are pretty aware that they're in special places when they're camping in our regional parks. Of course, it's just important that people do things like stick to the tracks, stay away from birds on the shoreline, and respect signage where it's perhaps directing people away from particularly sensitive areas, that kind of thing. But by and large, people are pretty respectful. And so we really appreciate that and the opportunity to connect people to those excellent places that we have.
Can tourism help our conservation efforts at all?
Yeah, I think it connects people to the environment, and that's a really important part. It might affect where they volunteer outside of their visit. It might affect how they vote. It might affect how willing they are to pay their rates to protect these amazing places. But also, people who, as part of a tourism opportunity, can also volunteer at some of these places and really get to know things behind the scenes. So I think there are various ways that tourism can help.
Great. I would like to speak to the promotion of activities. Are there particular areas where you feel that promotion is more required to boost awareness around either the activities that you guys support or revenues? For example, we have Kiwis on our islands. I imagine that this would be a huge selling point for some of our tourists in particular.
I think most tourist operators will know, many of our amazing jewels already, of course, and take people there or send people in that direction. But we also, we have those more out of the way places that perhaps more people could get to. Aotea Great Barrier, for example, what an amazing place, incredible beaches, wildlife everywhere, really interesting place to get out and explore. Our islands, as you say, absolutely, we've got some fantastic islands and some good opportunities to get out to them. And the restoration trusts that work on those islands, the community conservation groups, they could really do with that support for people getting out and working with them or, donating to them or even just supporting them by seeing all the good work that's happening.
Fantastic, Phil. Now, for tourism operators who are watching, what are some key things you would like them to do or know to support local conservation efforts? I'm sure there's many, but some key ones that you would like to speak to.
Yeah, there's some of the obvious things we've already touched on around in coati forests, ensuring that people are arriving at those tracks with clean footwear and clean equipment. but then also using the cleaning equipment when they get there for a final scrub, and cleaning again on the way out. Sticking to the track. Sticking to the track works pretty much wherever you go. When you're off track, you're more likely to trample on sensitive things. So always encouraging people to stick to the tracks. If you're getting out to our islands, making sure that you've checked your bags to make sure you don't have any stowaways in your bags. Would hate for a mouse or a rat or even lizards and ants and things getting out onto our islands where they're not welcome. So just always encourage people to understand where they're going, the tourist operators to understand where they're sending people, and make sure that they have briefed the people well enough so that when they get there, they can look after the sites.
And as we've already covered, some of Auckland's best tourist spots are also conservation sites. If you were hosting some out-of-town friends for a weekend, Phil, what would be on your itinerary for them?
Well, if they were the out and about sorts, then I'd absolutely want to get down to the West Coast beaches, and particularly around Piha, some fabulous coastline there to walk around, some really fantastic walks up onto the headlands. The walk up to the falls is really great, especially now that we've built that new track following the Crowdy Dieback closures. We've been able to reopen that. So definitely get down there. It's a great spot. And probably out to one of our islands. Waiheke has so much to offer from, the vineyards and the beaches and the conservation areas and just the remoteness from Auckland, as well as being able to go past some of our fantastic landmarks like Motukorea, Browns Island, Rangitoto Island, and Motuihe, Motutapu Islands. So I really love getting out there as well. And so I'd be very happy to get my friends out to enjoy those places.
Oh, you make me want to join you too. Thank you so much for joining us, Phil. That's all we have time for today, but we will wrap up with a video from Auckland Zoo about their conservation program for children.
The youth of today are incredibly connected with the problems of what's going on for the environment. They do come with genuine concerns, and I feel like our responsibility is to acknowledge that.
It's really important that we reach out to these people and engage them and show them what conservation is really about.
I'm really excited to see the influence in what young people will continue to do, things like the climate strike, and it's just exciting time to be young.
No mai haere mai ki te whare kararehe o Tāmaki Makaurau. Welcome to Auckland Zoo, everybody. How are you today? Awesome.
Hi, I'm Catherine. I'm a conservation educator here at Auckland Zoo, and I love that I get to reconnect urban youth with wildlife and wild places. Instead of just chucking it in the trash and it lands up in landfill, could you give it a new home? Could that thing be used somewhere else by someone else?
Kia ora te whānau, ko Sterling Tako Ingoa. I'm a teacher at the Auckland Zoo, and I like to lead children around and connect them back to nature.
Okay, tamariki mā. So who knows why we do a karakia before we get started with these classes?
My name is Ashley, and I work at Auckland Zoo as a bird keeper, and I also work for the outreach education team. We take ourselves outside of the zoo and we come to the schools, and we also take them out into nature, so into regional parks, marine reserves, all sorts of awesome natural places where they can see animals up close and conservation in action.
So what better place for us to make healthy than where you actually live? Who would like to make this place healthy? Awesome.
Good spotting. And with that white one, another kingfisher, yeah?
So today we've been spending a bit of time with Murray's Bay Intermediate, so Year 7s, looking at sustainability. Sustainability is so important in the work that we do, and also a place to be empowering and inspirational to the youth that come through our education programs. Could we start going to companies that use these sorts of things and say, can you guys come up with a better alternative that doesn't produce a tiny bit of plastic that could end up in the ocean? So during our sustainability sessions, we like to focus on inspiring stories about what we're doing here at the zoo, what other groups are doing in other parts of the world that we're connected with, but most importantly that we leave an opportunity for every student to walk away with an idea of an action that they can take to live more sustainably. If I said to you, what can we just say no to right now today?
Plastic bottles.
Plastic bottles, very good.
I refuse to litter.
You refuse to litter, I like it.
Plastic cups.
Plastic cups, right. Anything that we're just gonna maybe use once and then throw away.
That corner there though, your white tray. Awesome. So what we're doing out here, it really complements what the education team does inside of the zoo, bringing kids into the zoo, showing them animals up close and teaching them about the environment. So you want to use your little spade? Perfect. Cool. Okay.
It's really important that students understand that they have conservation skills that they can contribute. What we know is that every school is near a park or a reserve or a green space. So what we do is we take schools out to those places where they can use their conservation skills. The skills that we teach the students are the real skills that dock rangers, council workers and zookeepers use out in the field, and they're able to contribute them so they can join a local conservation group in their community and use those skills to take action. So I dropped that in there and you can look through there. Can you see anything?
Awesome.
Having hands-on opportunities with Auckland Zoo has been amazing for our students. They're all passionate about our environment now, and we are now an Enviro school. And our kids now don't walk past rubbish, they pick it up and they put it in the appropriate place, and they go home and talk to their mums and dads. And the best way for parents to learn is from their kids.
They like to stay with their mums.
It's a hedgehog! Look! There's more than one animal.
I think that the type of work that we're doing is really important, especially in New Zealand. At this time, New Zealand is hoping for a goal to be predator-free by the year 2050. And I think that teaching children in schools in New Zealand today about that goal and teaching them the skills that they need to achieve that is really important. So we are encouraging kids in schools today to become kaitiaki of New Zealand's wonderful ecosystem.
It's really important to let kids know that they are a part of nature. Sometimes they don't see themselves in nature all that often. We have to look after our natural spaces because they're the things that nourish us as well, and we can't survive without them. The most important thing is that we connect to nature, we connect to our environment, but we also connect to each other and ourselves.
The reason I'm so passionate about the sustainability message goes back to me growing up in Africa, and I grew up with the concept of Ubuntu, which is I am because we are. So for me, we means everybody, all living things, the planet, the connections, and how we live. And I love being here in New Zealand and having those beautiful concepts of kaitiakitanga and manakitanga, which also foster that idea of guardianship, of being responsible for your actions here, and how you connect with the natural world and how you look after it. We have a very, very important role to play in inspiring and empowering the youth to connect with those deeper concepts of how we belong to each other, us and the environment. For the students who are a bit older, we see them really wanting to participate and to take some definitive action for things like climate change and just living sustainably in general. Anna and Kushi are two students from Western Springs College who held a Green Jam, student-led, and they hosted it here at Auckland Zoo. And it was wonderful to watch them organise that and see that come to fruition.
We ran a sustainability conference here at the zoo called Green Jam.
So Green Jam was basically about having like a day where everybody of like all ages come together and kind of just learn from other people that are in the field of sustainability and just learning about how to just taking personal action but also being a part of an action in like a community. We're past the point of just like trying to fix our mistakes. We have to like actively make a difference. So I think it's very important for people to become informed consumers and kind of start questioning some of the things that they've been doing, because we really need to start making some differences.
Yeah, and just to get involved, because there's so many people doing things, and like you don't have to be actively organising, but just going to these events, planting trees, picking up rubbish, they can be really helpful.
The positive things that I would love to see, I feel like it's already started, but I would just like to see it more every day, that we just have that real innate understanding of how important our connection to wildlife and wild places is. And so that drives and motivates us in the actions that we take, in the way that we live, the way that we consume. So I feel like we're on that journey already, and I hope that grows in leaps and bounds. Yeah, that's what I'd love to see.
Don't forget to join us next week. I look forward to chatting with you all again, same time, same place. Haere rā.